Imagine waking up, right, at like 2:23 a.m. on a freezing Tuesday.
Ugh, the absolute worst time to be awake.
Literally, it's January 3rd, and you're in the middle of this brutal winter storm.
Just freezing.
Yeah, and you step outside, shivering in just your boxers, a leather jacket, and your ex-girlfriend's 2 small pink Crocs.
Which is a bold fashion choice for a blizzard, honestly.
Right. But you're just out there to chase down her howling Persian cat, and as you're standing there in the freezing wind, you watch your 7-story apartment building and like every other building on Earth just get completely flattened.
Just crushed like a massive tin can under a giant cosmic boot.
Exactly.
In an instant, every single man-made structure is vaporized. So anyone who is indoors, anyone with a roof over their head is simply gone.
Gone.
Yeah, the global population is instantly reduced from 8 billion down to a few million terrified stragglers just standing outside in the cold.
It's wild. Welcome to today's deep dive, everyone. We are looking at a first-hand narrative account of a man named Carl and his ex-girlfriend's cat, Princess Donut, navigating the literal apocalypse.
And doing a surprisingly good job of it, all things considered.
Yeah, they really do. But the mission of our deep dive today isn't just to, recount an alien invasion. We are going to extract the survival mechanics of a world that has been instantly transformed into an intergalactic, gamified reality TV show.
A really twisted one.
Very. We're going to decode the rules of this world dungeon so you can understand the ultimate intersection of galactic bureaucracy and just brutal survival mechanics. So, okay, let's unpack this.
Well, the most staggering part of this narrative is that Earth wasn't destroyed in an act of war or even out of malice. It was, for all intents and purposes, repossessed.
Wait, repossessed like a car?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
The Barrant Corporation, which is this massive alien syndicate, they seized the planet based entirely on a legal technicality. Humanity apparently failed to file a proper appeal for mineral and elemental rights within 50 solars of first contact.
50 solar.
Right. And first contact, according to the records, happened thousands of years ago.
Oh, wow.
Roughly around the time we were building the pyramids. So because we missed the deadline, we forfeited the planet.
That is just the ultimate absurd nightmare of not reading the fine print.
It really is.
It's like you mindlessly click accept on a software update's terms of service, only to realize years later that the penalty for ignoring the details is the literal strip mining of your entire planet.
Yep. You didn't read paragraph 4, so goodbye, Earth.
And what the Barrant Corporation actually does with the planet's raw materials is wild. They take 99.999999% of all sifted Earth matter, the cars, the skyscrapers, the dirt, the bedrock, and it's repurposed and reassembled into an 18-level subterranean world dungeon.
And the surviving humans, those roughly 10 million people who happen to be outside at 2:23 a.m., they're given a completely twisted ultimatum by the planetary AI.
And it's not a good one.
No, not at all. They can either enter this subterranean dungeon and fight their way through all 18 levels to reclaim their planet, or they can stay on the barren, atmospherically stripped surface and just freeze to death.
Which isn't much of a choice.
Exactly. But the dungeon isn't just a mining operation to extract Earth's core elements. It's a television show.
Right, which means the survivors aren't just miners or prisoners, they are literally contestants.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how the aliens intentionally construct this broadcast. The Crawl is this massive entertainment empire broadcast to 3 billion star systems across the galaxy.
3 billion, that's a huge audience.
Unfathomable. And the producers, they spent decades studying Earth prior to the invasion. They intentionally use recognizable Earth tropes, specifically video game RPG mechanics, fantasy classes, creatures like goblins, because they know our pop culture inside and out.
They did their homework.
They really did. One of the alien guides in the source material, Mordecai, even mentions watching James Bond on VHS.
That's hilarious.
Right. They gamify our apocalypse using our own cultural language just to make the slaughter more digestible for their viewers.
We should probably clarify what we mean by RPG mechanics for anyone listening who maybe doesn't play video games.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So an RPG is a role-playing game. In a normal video game, your character is defined by stats, these numbers that represent your strength, your intelligence, or your agility.
And what the Barrant Corporation did was take those virtual mathematical concepts and make them the literal laws of physics in the world dungeon.
Yes. If your strength stat is high enough, you can punch through a brick wall completely regardless of your actual real-world muscle mass. It's math dictating reality.
Which completely upends the concept of human survival. You aren't surviving based on your real-world skills anymore. You are surviving based on the mathematical foundation the system assigns to you when you enter the dungeon.
It's totally arbitrary. So let's look at how that impacts the survivors themselves, starting with Carl. In video game terms, your starting loadout is the equipment and abilities you have at the very beginning of the game.
And Carl's starting loadout is objectively ridiculous.
It is so bad. He's a 27-year-old former Coast Guardsman. He has a naturally high-strength stat of 6 right out of the gate, but the system decides to give him an intelligence of 3.
Ouch.
Yeah, not great. And because he was outside chasing a cat, he is stuck wearing no pants, a leather jacket, and those 2 small pink Crocs.
But then you have the cat, Princess Donut, the Queen Anne Chomp.
Oh, what a name.
She enters the dungeon as a standard, albeit very pampered, Persian show cat. But early on, she consumes an item called an enhanced pet biscuit.
Which she gets out of a loot box, right?
Yes, a loot box,
Yeah.
which is essentially a randomized prize package the system drops as a reward for killing monsters. The biscuit fundamentally alters her biology. She transforms from a regular feline into a fully sentient talking crawler.
A talking cat.
A very opinionated talking cat. Her intelligence skyrockets. She gains the ability to shoot magic missiles out of her eyes, and she equips this bizarre magical item called the Enchanted Crown of the Sepsis Whore.
I still can't get over that name. It's so intense. But her biggest asset, though, is her charisma stat, right? Because it starts at a massive 25 and eventually scales up to 37.
Yeah, and that specific number fundamentally alters the power dynamic between Carl and Donut, and honestly, between Donut and the dungeon itself.
Okay, I have to push back on this, though. Does having a mathematically high charisma stat actually make a snooty showcat a better leader in a subterranean death maze than a trained Coast Guardsman with actual combat experience?
I mean...
Because at the end of the day, she is still a cat. She doesn't have thumbs.
Well, in our world, no, of course not. Carl would obviously be the leader. But in the dungeon, charisma isn't just a personality trait or a measure of how likable you are. It is a measurable physical force.
The physical force.
Yes, it's the ability to impose your will on the environment. Donut's high charisma allows her to manipulate NPCs' non-player characters. In a normal video game, NPCs are just background characters programmed to stand at a shop and sell you potions. In the world dungeon, they are living alien constructs, and Donut's stats mathematically force them to obey her.
So it's almost like gravity.
Yeah.
In the real world, gravity pulls an apple to the floor unconditionally. In this game engine, if Donut tells a goblin to do something, her charisma acts like a gravitational pull on their programming.
That's exactly it.
The code pulls them toward obedience, completely overriding their own desires.
Because the game engine literally dictates reality. You cannot argue with the math, no matter how absurd the outcome is.
Wait, hold on. Speaking of absurd outcomes, we have to talk about the AI governing this entire system.
Oh boy.
Because this is a highly advanced alien civilization, right? They are capable of flattening planets, harvesting the mass, and rebuilding it into an 18-level subterranean dungeon in a matter of hours.
Right, incredibly advanced.
But the AI they use to run the game engine has a blatant, undisguised foot fetish.
It really does.
How does a civilization that advanced build something so bizarre and buggy?
It reveals the cracks in the Borant Corporation's omnipotence, honestly. The AI isn't some flawless divine intelligence. It is a cobbled-together, overworked algorithm operating on an unfathomable scale, and it has developed some severe psychological quirks.
Quirks is putting it mildly. Because Carl is running around barefoot or in broken Crocs, he ends up killing some giant bugs by stomping on them. And the system gives him a skill literally called Smush.
Smush, yes.
It rewards him with a gold shoebox and gives him an achievement called Podophilia. The AI literally whispers in his head, praising his bare feet in this deeply unsettling tone.
It's hilarious on the surface, but it highlights a terrifying vulnerability.
Yeah, it really does.
Carl and the other survivors are subject to the bizarre psychology of the game masters. Survival isn't just about physical endurance or fighting monsters. It's about navigating the whims of a perverted, unpredictable algorithm.
And that unpredictability extends to the only other way to get resources in this game, which is the viewing audience. Because having good stats just isn't enough to survive. You need to be popular.
You really do. The source material introduces a literal ratings menu in the crawler's interface. It tracks views, followers, favorites, and patrons.
Like social media.
Exactly like social media. Carl realizes very quickly that long-term survival relies heavily on benefactor boxes. These care packages sent down from rich, intergalactic sponsors watching the show at home.
Imagine if your physical survival, whether you got a bandage for a bleeding wound, a weapon to defend yourself, or a scrap of food so you didn't starve to death, depended entirely on how many likes your latest Instagram reel got.
It's a terrifying thought.
That is Carl's reality. You are playing by reality TV rules. You have to be entertaining. You have to kill monsters with style. Donut even tells Carl they need a catchphrase to boost their brand recognition.
And if you are boring, the algorithm buries you. You don't get the high-tier loot from sponsors, and you die.
You just die.
Yeah, and this absurd, gamified economy of attention stands in stark, horrifying contrast to the physical reality of what the crawlers are experiencing. The system wraps everything in these snappy, sarcastic achievement notifications, but the actual violence is deeply traumatic.
Definitely. Look at the boss fight with the hoarder on the first floor. On paper, it sounds like a standard video game encounter. Go to the boss room, defeat the monster, get the loot.
But the reality of that encounter breaks the illusion of the game completely. The Hoarder isn't a digitally rendered monster. She is a 15-foot-tall, physically mutated human woman.
It's so sad.
It really is. The alien technology has warped her body, trapping her inside a massive pile of burning garbage. And the worst part is her mind is still somewhat intact. She's completely terrified.
Yeah, she's crying. She's begging for help in Spanish, saying she doesn't know where she is and asking for Jesus.
It's just heartbreaking.
But her biology has been hijacked by the system. Every time she opens her mouth to scream or plead for help, the system forces her to vomit out these level 4 killer cockroaches called scatterers. She doesn't want to fight Carl. Carl doesn't want to fight her. But the cockroaches are lethal, and the room is locked. So Carl is forced to wrap a metal dog leash around this weeping woman's neck and beat her to death with his bare hands just to survive the room.
The system actively engineers trauma. It forces Carl to brutalize an innocent victim of the invasion, stripping away any veneer of a fun game.
There's nothing fun about it.
Right. But the psychological manipulation becomes even more apparent shortly after that horrific fight when Carl and Donut reach a safe room and watch the broadcast premiere of Dungeon Crawler World.
Earth. The safe room itself is surreal. It looks like a glowing fast food restaurant in the middle of a dungeon. And on the screens inside, they see how the Borant Corporation is packaging the destruction of their home for the galactic audience.
And it is pure propaganda.
Completely. The broadcast completely ignores the reality of people like the Hoarder. The producers cherry-pick the absolute worst footage of humanity to serve as an intro. They show humans shooting up drugs, brutal violence, disaster footage.
And they even mix in fictional clips.
Yeah. They use clips from the 1980s horror movie Basket Case, presenting it to the aliens as authentic documentary footage of Earth.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is a masterclass in manufacturing consent on a galactic scale. The Borant Corporation gamifies the slaughter to remove the moral weight for their viewers. They turn the genocide of a species into a sporting event.
It's brilliant in an evil way.
Extremely evil. By painting humanity as a primitive, violently irredeemable species that actually deserves its fate, the alien viewers don't feel guilty watching them die. They feel entertained. They convince themselves they are doing the universe a favor by cleaning up a toxic planet.
It is entirely about protecting the conscience of the consumer so the network can keep selling ads.
Exactly.
And the profound tragedy is that the aliens aren't the only ones exploiting humanity's darker instincts. The deeper Carl and Donut go into the dungeon, the more the immediate threat shifts away from the monsters.
The environment is incredibly deadly, yes, but the system is specifically designed to artificially engineer scarcity. And when resources are scarce, the prisoner's dilemma kicks in very quickly.
For those unfamiliar with the concept, the prisoner's dilemma is a game theory scenario where two individuals might not cooperate, even if it appears that it is in their best interest to do so. In the World Dungeon, this theory plays out with fatal consequences.
We see this with Rebecca W.
Right. Carl comes across the body of a crawler named Rebecca W. She's dead on the edge of a corridor. But she wasn't killed by a giant bug or a lava-spitting llama. She was shot directly in the chest by another human crawler named Frank Q.
A fellow survivor.
Yeah. He murdered her, looted all of her survival gear, and left her naked with nothing but an apple core.
Because the system mathematically disincentivizes trust. The alien game engine drops limited resources, limited weapons, and limited food. The easiest way to get a massive influx of gear isn't to risk your life fighting a monster. It's to shoot the human standing next to you who already did the hard work.
So, what does this all mean? It means that out of the 10 million initial survivors, the numbers are plummeting by the millions. Not just because the dungeon is hard to navigate, it's because humans are turning on each other. The system is operating exactly as designed. It fosters panic.
And a panic driven largely by the ticking clock mechanic. Each level of the dungeon has a collapse timer.
You can't just rest.
No, you can't just find a safe room, hunker down, and wait for rescue. Once the timer hits 0, the roof of the level will literally cave in, crushing everything. The game forces you to keep moving downward into increasingly dangerous territory, ensuring constant, desperate encounters with both monsters and other terrified humans.
But this is where Carl and Donut's overarching survival strategy really takes shape. Instead of just brute forcing their way through, breaking their bodies against the monsters, or turning into predators who hunt other humans, they decide to leverage the game's absurd mechanics.
They recognize that applying Earth logic to an alien math problem will just get them killed. They have to weaponize the rules.
Exactly. Let's go back to Donut's massive 37 charisma stat. They encounter a group of heavily armed goblin engineers. Carl doesn't draw a weapon. Donut steps up.
The cat takes charge.
The cat takes charge. She confidently waltzes up to these lethal monsters, arbitrarily names them B.A., Face, and Murdoch like she's casting an episode of the A-Team, and demands they build her a vehicle.
And it works.
It works, because the game's code dictates that her charisma overpowers their will, that gravitational pull we talked about. It just works. The goblins salute the cat and start building.
This raises an important question, though. In a system explicitly designed to strip away your humanity, to turn your deep personal trauma into digestible content, and to pit you against your fellow survivors in a fight for scraps, is weaponizing the absurdity of the game the only way to retain your sanity?
It seems like it.
Carl and Donut survive because they accept the new rules faster than anyone else. You have to play the role the system assigns you, but you have to play it so well that you bend the programming to your advantage.
You have to lean into the madness. Surviving the world dungeon obviously requires immense physical endurance. We see Carl literally breaking the bones in his hands to fight off creatures. But more importantly, it requires an absolute, unwavering willingness to adapt to a bureaucratic nightmare.
A deadly one.
Yeah. You must learn to play to the alien audience for sponsor loot, meticulously manage your arbitrary RPG stats, and fundamentally accept that the old world, your old life, your old career is just gone.
The old world was crushed into dust the moment the clock struck 2:23 a.m. Fighting to get it back the way it was is a guaranteed death sentence.
Which leaves us with a lingering thought to mull over. The Boreant Corporation turned Earth's destruction into a reality TV show for massive corporate profit. They broadcast our worst moments, our deepest panics, and our most visceral traumas for the casual entertainment of a bored universe.
It's a grim mirror.
It really is, because how different is that really from how we commodify trauma and tragedy in our own modern media landscape?
Oh, that's a good point.
From our obsession with true crime podcasts to the millions of views on viral disaster videos, we routinely consume the worst days of other people's lives as passive content.
We really do.
So if our world ended tomorrow, would we be the horrified victims in the dungeon? Or have we already been conditioned to be the eager audience watching from the couch?
It definitely forces you to reevaluate the mechanics of our own attention economy and what we consider entertainment.
Something to think about the next time you're doom scrolling late at night. Thank you for joining this deep dive into the source material. We hope it gave you some insight into the mechanics of survival, the dangers of galactic bureaucracy, and the undeniable power of a charismatic Persian cat.
Long live Princess Donut.
Indeed. And if you ever find yourself standing in the freezing cold at 2:23 a.m., staring at an empty space where your apartment building used to be, well, you better hope you're wearing good shoes.